Levittown, Pennsylvania. September 4th, 1957. Donald Webb pulls into his driveway at 6:14 in the evening. He is still in his work clothes. There is grease under his fingernails that will not come out no matter how hard he scrubs. He is 31 years old, and he is exhausted in the way that only men who use their bodies for a living understand. He sits in the car for a moment before going inside. He looks at the house. 3 bedrooms, a garage, a garden his wife planted in April. He paid $9,990 for it. 2 years of his salary. He owns it. Not the bank, not his father. Him. For the first time in his life, Donald Webb feels like he is not behind. That feeling. Remember it. Because this entire story is about what happened to that feeling, who manufactured it, who maintained it, and who is still selling it to you right now in 2026 for a price that Donald Webb could never have imagined. Here is what nobody told Donald that evening in the driveway. The thing he was feeling was not permanent. It was not a birthright. It was not the natural result of hard work in a fair system. It was a 27-year window, a specific and temporary set of economic conditions that would begin collapsing in 1973 and would never fully return. 1973. That is the year everything changes and almost nobody notices. Real wages for American workers peak. Not slow down. Peak. The average hourly wage for a non-supervisory American worker hits its highest point in history in 1973 and does not recover for decades. The factory floor does not change. The hours do not change. The exhaustion does not change. Only the reward changes. But here is the part that should make you put down whatever you are doing and pay attention. The feeling in the driveway does not disappear with the wages. Someone makes sure of that. Someone figures out how to keep 150 million Americans feeling like Donald Webb, feeling like they are not behind, feeling like they are winning, while quietly making sure they never actually are. Donald Webb's son is named Michael. Michael Webb is 28 years old in 1979. He works at the same factory his father worked at, same town, same hours, same grease under his fingernails at the end of the day. But something is different, and Michael cannot quite name it. His father bought a house at 31 on 2 years of salary. Michael runs the numbers. The house down the street from his parents sold last month for $47,000. His annual salary is $14,200. That house costs him 3.5 years of income, not 2, not his father's 2, 3.5. He does not think too much about it, because in 1979, a man named Walter Wriston, the chief executive of Citibank, is thinking about it for him. Wriston understands something that Michael Webb does not. Real wages stopped growing in 1973, but American consumption has not stopped. People still want houses. They still want cars. They still want the driveway feeling that Donald Webb had in 1957. And if wages cannot deliver that feeling anymore, something else has to. That something is debt. In 1978, Congress passes legislation that removes interest rate caps on credit cards. For the first time in American history, banks can charge whatever they want. Citibank immediately relocates its credit card operations to South Dakota, where there are no usury laws at all. Within 2 years, every major bank follows. Within 5 years, credit card debt in America doubles. Michael Webb gets his first credit card in 1981. He feels like he is keeping up. He does not feel the interest accumulating at 18%. He does not feel the mechanism that has just been built around him. A machine designed with extraordinary precision to do one thing: to allow the American middle class to maintain the feeling of winning, to keep the driveway feeling alive, while transferring every dollar of real wealth quietly and efficiently in the opposite direction. Michael Webb is not a victim of bad decisions. Michael Webb is the product of a perfect system working exactly as designed. Michael Webb has 3 children. His oldest daughter is named Karen. She is 22 years old in 1998, and she is about to make the single most consequential financial decision of her life. She has been accepted to a state university in Ohio. The tuition is $8,400 per year. Her father makes $31,000 a year. He cannot help much. A financial aid counselor sits across from her in a small office and explains that there is a loan program specifically designed for situations like hers. The counselor uses the word investment 17 times in that meeting. She counts them later. Karen signs for $34,000 in federal student loans. She is told this is normal. She is told a degree is the path to the middle class her grandfather built and her father tried to maintain. She is told the debt will be manageable once she starts working. Nobody tells her that between 1980 and 1998, college tuition in America increased by 300%. Nobody tells her that the federal government began pulling back on grants in the early 1980s and replaced them with loans, specifically and deliberately, because loans generate interest and grants do not. Nobody tells her that the student loan industry in America will become a $1.7 trillion market built almost entirely on the financial anxiety of people exactly like her. Karen graduates in 2002. She finds a job paying $34,000 a year, exactly what her father makes, with a degree he never needed. Her monthly loan payment is $380. She moves into an apartment. She cannot save for a down payment while paying the loan. She cannot build equity while renting. She cannot do what Donald did or what Michael tried to do because the entry point to that life now costs more than the loan she is still paying. By 2008, Karen's loan balance is $29,000. She has been paying for 6 years. The balance has barely moved because interest consumed most of every payment. Then the financial crisis hits. Karen loses her job in March 2008. She is 32 years old. She has $1,400 in savings. She has $29,000 in debt that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy, a debt that will follow her with the legal persistence of a criminal record. 3 generations, 3 different decades, 3 different traps. Donald Webb had the driveway. Michael Webb had the credit card. Karen Webb has the loan. The trap gets more sophisticated with every generation. Karen Webb buys a house in 2012. She is 36 years old. The financial crisis is technically over. The market has recovered. A mortgage broker explains that rates are at historic lows, and this is the best time in a generation to buy. Karen puts down $18,000, everything she has saved in 4 years of extreme discipline. She signs a 30-year mortgage at 4.1% on a house worth $210,000. She feels what her grandfather felt in that driveway in 1957. She feels like she finally owns something. Here's what Karen actually owns on the day she signs those papers. Nothing. The bank owns $192,000 worth of that house. Karen owns $18,000 worth. Her ownership stake is 8.6%. For the next 30 years, she will pay $1,050 per month. By the time that mortgage is finished, she will have paid the bank $378,000 for a house that cost $210,000. The extra $168,000 is not a fee. It is not a tax. It is a mathematical mechanism built into every mortgage ever written that silently doubles the price of every home that every middle-class family has ever bought. Donald Webb did the same thing and never thought about it. Michael Webb did the same thing and never thought about it. Karen Webb does the same thing and never thinks about it. Because nobody explains it in plain language. Because the mortgage industry processes $4 trillion in loans every year and has no financial interest in helping borrowers understand what they are actually signing. Because the sensation of ownership is real enough that the reality of debt becomes invisible. Karen drives to work every morning in a car she does not own. A 5-year loan at 6.9% on a vehicle that lost 20% of its value the moment she drove it off the lot. She pays into a 401k that she does not control, managed by people she has never met, invested in a market she does not understand. She pays a student loan on a debt that cannot be erased. She owns the feeling of ownership. She does not own the thing itself. And here's what makes this the most important detail in this entire story. Karen is not behind. By every conventional measure, Karen Webb is doing exactly what the middle class is supposed to do. She is a homeowner. She is saving for retirement. She has a degree. She has a car. She has a job. She is performing middle class perfectly, and performing it is costing her everything she earns. Karen Webb's daughter is 7 years old. Her name is Sophie. Sophie will enter the housing market sometime around 2037. The median home price today is $420,000. If it continues rising at the same rate it has risen since Donald Webb bought his house in 1957, Sophie will face a median home price of somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000. Her student loans will be larger than Karen's. Her wages will face the same pressure that stopped growing in 1973 and never fully recovered. The credit card debt machine that captured Michael is now so normalized that Sophie will not even recognize it as a trap. 4 generations, one family, one pattern that keeps working because nobody ever names it clearly enough to stop it. The exit exists, but it does not look like anything the middle class was taught to want. It does not look like a bigger house or a better loan rate or a smarter credit card. It looks like understanding that the feeling of winning and the reality of winning are two completely different things, and that every institution Karen has ever dealt with has a financial interest in making sure she never tells the difference. Donald Webb sat in that driveway in 1957 and felt like he was not behind. Sophie Webb will sit somewhere in 2037 with a different number on a different screen, and the machine will still be running, unless someone turns it off. Which generation decides to do that is still being decided right now. If this made you see something you cannot unsee, tell me in the comments which generation you belong to and whether you recognize your family in this story. And subscribe because next week we show you exactly what turning it off actually looks like.